How's it going, guys? This is Holly with Grindworx, and today we are talking about knife blade styles. As you're about to see, there's almost an infinite number of styles and shapes when it comes to blades, and they all kind of serve a different purpose. So let's kind of go over the basics and what I feel like are some of the more common ones that you're going to run into. So this right here is a Tallen Puukko Darkhorn fixed blade knife with a standard blade style. So this is just a basic general purpose blade shape that's good for just about anything. It has this really strong straight spine, which gives it a really strong tip and this nice full belly leading up to the tip. So that means that it works well for both, piercing tasks and slicing as well. As in other videos, I'm not going to go over the details of this knife as far as, the size and the materials and all of that too much in this video, since we're really focused on just the blade styles, but you can find all of that info at the links below. Next up, we have a clip point blade. This is a Boker Kalashnikov Bowie auto. Now don't get confused. Yes, this is a Bowie blade, but a Bowie blade is really just a slight variation of a clip point blade. So a clip point blade is a modified version of the standard blade style. If you look at these next to each other, it's as though the last inch or two of a standard blade has been clipped off, giving this, a particularly pointed tip. This style is usually associated with hunting knives, since that tip allows for really detailed precision work, like what you're going to be doing if you're skinning or cleaning an animal. It also just looks pretty cool. Next we have what I feel like is probably the most common blade style. This is a drop point blade. This is a Cobratec scale release auto, and the drop point does exactly what it sounds like. The spine of the blade isn't straight, but instead it curves slightly downward towards the tip. I really like this style for detailed work because it kind of feels like a natural extension of your index finger. The way that that blade curves really creates a natural place for your finger to rest and really get in there and do that fine work. Next we have the Hawkbill. This is the Kershaw Launch 10 auto. You can see that the Hawkbill blade points pretty strongly downward. So Hawkbill blades have been around for quite a while, but originally they aided in pruning and other agricultural tasks, since that curved point really makes it a lot easier to cut through stems and branches. They've since evolved and become a popular feature on a lot of self-defense knives like karambits. But in cases like these, I really think they just look cool. Maybe it's the resemblance to, like the claw of an animal or something, but it just kind of gives it a sort of wild, fierce look. Next we have this spear point. This is the AKC X-treme Ace Auto. This is another pretty self-explanatory one. This blade is designed primarily for piercing, but it also makes a pretty good slicer because it's got that little bit of a belly. It's another one that's just kind of good for general purpose stuff. Right next to that we have the dagger, which is very similar to the spear point, but it has two sharpened edges instead of just the one. Daggers were originally intended for self-defense. That's why you see them on swords and things like that. But I think they're really handy as box cutters because you can cut from any direction. This right here is what they call a sheep's foot. This is the mini lady spring-assisted knife. Sheep's foot blades are essentially the opposite of daggers and spear points. This is what you want in a situation where a prominent point would be a bad idea. So let's say in a rescue situation, you're trying to, remove somebody's clothing or something like that. When you're working in a situation like that, the last thing you want is the point of a knife out there, risking cutting somebody. So this is something that you can use that's dull on the very front and is less likely to cause damage in that way. Now this is a Wharncliffe. This is the Kershaw Leek assisted knife. Again, very similar to the sheep's foot in shape, but it does have that very strong, sharp point. I usually think of it as the natural evolution of a drop point, where the spine of the blade is just dropping even further. So it makes it really great for detail work like carving and whittling. And it doesn't look too bad either. And lastly, we have the Tanto in our Lightning OTF. Now the Tanto blade originates in Japan, so it was used in combat as well, just like the dagger. It's very similar to a spear point, except that it has these two edges that kind of go in different directions that create this really, really strong point. So the idea was that it was good for piercing armor and things like that. Not much crossover for today, But there are still some practical uses for this. Some people like to use that forward edge for scraping, almost chisel-like, which is another blade shape that we're not covering in this video. But you have the ability to kind of get up in there and use that forward edge to scrape at things while still also having this longer edge for slicing. These make really great box cutters as well. If I had to choose a favorite, I don't know, honestly it would be hard for me to do because so often when it comes to knives, I'm not necessarily thinking about the practical, I'm also thinking about just what I like the looks of. I'm a big fan of Bowie, really can't go wrong with the drop point. But as far as what's on the table, I'd have to say that my favorite is probably the Wharncliffe. It just has a really sleek, sophisticated style. That probably has a lot to do with the fact that the Leek is very thin and refined as it is. But that's my pick for this video. So I'd love to know, what is your favorite blade style and why? If there's a style that you like in particular, what kinds of tasks do you use it for? Are there other styles that aren't on this list that you think belong here? So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Definitely leave me a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when a new video drops. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.